Hello, and welcome to a Purpose Driven Marriage podcast. We are Dwayne Nadine Stewart, and we love any and all things marriage. You've tuned into the right place if you're looking for actionable, practical tips to help you overcome real life obstacles common to real relationships. We're here to help you strive for a marriage as God has designed it and not as the world has defined it. Because why settle for a good marriage when you can have a great one?
All right. Hello, and welcome back to A Purpose-Driven Marriage, where we discuss all things marriage and relationships. And I'm Dwayne Stewart, and you know who I love and and adore. My partner, her name is
Nadine.
That's my wife.
Why do you laugh when you
That's
say
my wife. Because I'm staring at you. That's why I'm laughing.
Well, hello, everyone. We are so excited to dive into today's topic. It is actually pretty funny. I think that's why Dwayne's laughing. We titled it, Help. Will our sex life grow stale the longer we're married?
Well, I can tell you that answer.
What is it?
It's a no. It will not grow stale.
It will not.
Not if you don't let it.
Yeah, exactly. But this is actually a topic that Dwayne and I decided on at the last minute. We were going to talk about something different, but over the past week or two, this has been a question that's been asked of me during my premarital counseling sessions. So as I meet with newly engaged couples and they're looking to dive into a lifetime of wedded bliss, one of the questions that they ask, and I think it's kind of funny, but it makes sense, right, is we're going to be intimate with the same person for the rest of our lives. How do you even keep that up? How do you keep it from growing stale? Will it?
It's literally, Nadine, this is a legitimate question because I told you this before. You just know, guys, we had our 24th anniversary last week, and I had that question, not necessarily about intimacy.
Last week?
No, I had the question before we got married, and I told you, I was like, to be real with you, I thought about that too, and I was concerned about it. I was like, I'm not really sure. Am I going to get tired of seeing you and waking up every morning and all that other stuff? But it is absolutely a false thought. And it's probably the enemy putting that in your mind anyway. But as you become more intimate and get to know you just in a deeper way, I realized, wow, there is absolutely no way that I'm going to get tired of this woman because I just love you more every day.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's like a subject that you never get tired of.
That's right.
Like you just keep learning. If you are truly open to just the possibilities of what you could learn about the other, I mean, this is a subject that you can never grow tired of. And so there's actually research that supports our stance on this, right? Research shows that couples who've been married 20 years or longer actually report higher satisfaction with the quality of their sex life. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Sex Research found that sexual satisfaction actually increases over time for couples who have been together for more than 15 years. Did you hear that? It increases. Sexual satisfaction increases.
And also, doesn't that study show that when you're in your 50s and 60s, it's even more significant, right? When you start thinking about when you're in your 30s and 40s, they say that you're in your prime, somewhere in there. But I think your relationship just gets even more intense and more significant in your 50s and 60s. And that's when you have the most satisfaction during that period of time.
Oh, absolutely. Because you're getting to know each other. That study that you were talking about, it was a different study. It was published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior. And they found that married couples in their 50s and their 60s, okay, get this. This is going to blow you guys away. So if you're standing, you may want to sit down. But those in their 50s and 60s, they were having more sex and enjoying it more than their counterparts in their 40s.
Yeah.
And here's what's crazy, babe. Like, we're in our 40s. When I read that, I was like,
Wait.
what?
Yeah. Well, it's just something to look forward to, right?
Yeah. And by that time, our kids
They'll be out the house.
they'll be out of the house. So it's
We
like,
just got 3 more years, really, so.
Yeah, and that's about how long we have
And that's
until
when we're in our
we get
50s.
in our 50s.
Well, you'll be in your 50s more than before me.
Why do you keep throwing me under the
That
bus?
well, kids say that, so I just wanted to make sure that people know.
You're always needing to tell people that I'm older than you. It's just by months.
Yes.
Months, not years. But anyways, yeah, so those in their 50s and 60s, they've been found to be having more sex and actually enjoying it more than their counterparts.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that at that point, when you've been married for that long, I mean, if you're not comfortable with each other yet, if you haven't learned how to communicate
Right.
and tell each other what your needs are,
Right.
you know, what you like, what you enjoy, then you are completely missing out
Right.
on some tremendously amazing possibilities.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, as I think about it, there's probably, since we've heard it a few different times, there's probably people thinking, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah, there's studies out there. Everybody's having this wonderful sex and everything, but they're like, well, I'm not in that position right now. Like, that's not what we're dealing with. You know, not me and you, but other people might be saying that, right? So as we think about it, what are the key things that we've experienced in our marriage that intensifies and strengthens our sexual relationship and intimacy that we can communicate to other people today?
Oh, yeah. Well, you said the word communication. Communication's huge. Like, one of the most popular topics that I get asked to speak on, I can't even tell you how many times I have given this talk, is one on sex and intimacy in marriage.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people come up to me and share with me is that talking about sex with their spouse is actually rather uncomfortable for them. They never got around to talking about sex, and so they never learned how. Right? So imagine being married to the same person for 20 years, but yet not ever being able to say, you know what, honey? I love it when you do this.
Right.
Can you do more of this? Or wouldn't it be great if we tried this?
Well, guess what?
What?
We are, let's say, inherently kind of selfish individuals, right? And when you're having sex with your spouse, right?
Yeah.
And we always think that, okay, well, you know, I've done it a few different times, whatever, so I'm an expert at this now. So don't tell me what I need to do or what I don't need to do. But when you tell somebody that they might be doing it wrong and they thought that they were doing it right for a long time, what does that make you feel?
Yeah, well,
That's what I'm thinking about. That's probably why it doesn't get talked about.
Well, I think the manner in which the topic is discussed matters. It makes a difference. Like, so I always tell couples that talking about sex is really important, but the last place you want to talk about it is in the bedroom right after you just had sex.
Yeah, you know what?
This isn't American Idol, right? This isn't American Idol or The Voice.
Simon Cowell, or was it Randy Jackson said, oh, yeah, you were a little pitchy on that one.
Yeah, this isn't one of those opportunities for us to critique and give feedback. And so I actually encourage couples to even set dates just to talk about sex.
Yeah.
Like, how sexy is that to be sitting there in the middle of a restaurant and you're trying to keep your voices low because you're talking about something that's so intimate and so private between the two of you. I mean, gosh, if that doesn't turn you on and make you want to go home and just go and get it done and be intimate with your spouse, and I don't know.
What else would it be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so really having the freedom and having the feeling safe enough to be able to be vulnerable, say, hey, babe, you know, can we talk about this topic?
Yeah.
Can I tell you what I enjoy? Or let's say you're not even there yet, right? Let's say you're not there. Like, you know, a lot of the things that you learned about was like me maybe passively saying, oh, honey, according to research.
No, it didn't work out that way.
No, but I'm just saying
But we did have a discussion. I mean, we sat down and we talked about it. It was like, hey, you know what? I kind of like it when you do this.
Yes.
And it's like those things right there, that is something that turns me on. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And I think in the right environment, it is motivating. Because for me, I'm a football guy, right? So you give me the playbook and you tell me the exact play to run that's going to score a touchdown, guess what? I'm going to run that play. And I'm going to run it well. And that's kind of, that's why I end up starting.
Oh my gosh, I love that analogy. I can't believe you just said that, babe.
It's true, though.
No, but seriously, though, especially, and for ladies, Oh goodness. Like if you tell your husband what you enjoy, like Dwayne was saying, in the right environment, right? You say it in such a way that's not a critique,
Right.
but more so, oh babe, you know what I would love, or I think I would really enjoy. And then you bring it up, whatever that might be. I would venture to guess that I know that this was the case for you, but I think for most men, that's actually a turn on.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's nothing like this is something that you shared with me. There's nothing that pleases you more than knowing you're pleasing me.
Yep.
So ladies, don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to share with your husband what feels good to you.
Yeah.
Right? What turns you on. Because honestly, the traditional missionary man on top sex is just not going to cut it for most women.
All the time.
And yeah, exactly. In fact, most women, like 80% of women, require clitoral stimulation in order to orgasm.
Oh, we're going there?
Right? And so,
Okay.
well, we got into the whole communication thing. You know how
They're going to have to
passionate.
put like a parental guidance on this one.
Oh gosh. Oh, don't remind me. All right. So we'll move on.
right.
We'll move forward. That was, past PG, I guess. So anyway, so communication would be the first thing I would say to keep your marital sex life from getting stale. But then I think the second one is in recognizing that intimacy is not just about sex.
Yeah. That's important. And last week we had, what are the most important lessons that you learned? This is an important one because you are not me. I get turned on just like that. I'm like, it doesn't take me much. It don't take long at all. But for you and as my wife and as a female person, it's like an all day type of, foreplay. And it starts in the morning. We talked about this before, but it's more about the process of thinking about you and continuing that mood and creating intimacy through conversation over a period of time. Maybe it's a text message, maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's whatever. And it's like, hey, guess what? The kids are going to be gone tonight or whatever. And maybe we're scheduling it, because that's okay too. But it's also just the anticipation of looking forward to an event happening at some point in time later that day, which is kind of just building up and continue to build up like a snowball until that night comes and it's like, let's go. Because you've been thinking about it all day.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head when you talked about conversation, right? Sometimes it's just about a conversation. There's nothing that turns me on quicker when we're having conversation than you making me laugh.
Yeah.
Right? Like you saying the things that just like get laughter out of me, like the uninhibited laughter that just makes me so happy, so joyful. That's a big turn on to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think when you're funny, that means you're just letting loose, and I love that about you.
I need to follow. I need to pick up on some of my dad jokes.
I know.
My dad jokes, is that what we're talking about? No, not those. Okay.
No, not those jokes. But just, it's more in conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Just us connecting with each other, us talking about things, reminiscing, those types of things, me feeling heard. Like to me, that's such a turn on. And so having all day or even just, just a build up, it doesn't always have to be all day, but sometimes just a build up to the physical side of intimacy, I think works for me.
Yeah.
Right. And I would venture to guess it works for most women.
Yeah.
Like that's preferred. Or even when, we're out in public or we're at a party and you walk over and you just take my hand or you put your arms around me like, oh my gosh, like that's awesome. We're there in front of everyone. It's like
I'm not ashamed.
You are not ashamed. You
hugging
are
my wife or holding her hand or something like that.
Yeah. And so that means a lot. Just the physical touching that's non-sexual. That I think can go a long, long ways for a lot of women.
What does it make you feel when I do that?
It makes me feel desired. It makes me feel wanted. It makes me feel like you are proud to have me as your wife. Yeah. Anyways, so that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Is the second one.
Yeah. And what's interesting is we taught a course about marriage, and part of it was the sexual intimacy part of it. And it talked about like what role does God have in sexuality in marriage? And we started thinking about even in that same article that you just read before, it talks about people that are religious. They have extremely fulfilling sex lives.
Yeah, and they have more sex.
They have more sex on top of that. And so you think about it and you say, okay, who created people? God, right? Who sanctioned marriage and who created the institution of marriage? God did that. And who created sex?
God did.
God did.
Yeah.
And so we start thinking about that and you say, why did he create sex? He created for intimacy. He created for pleasure. And he created for procreation, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a bunch of different things in there. So we really think about why he did that, right? He did that so that we could enjoy ourselves in our relationship with each other. But he also did that. If we do that in the right way, it's now pointing right back to him and it's glorifying God. So through our intimacy, through our pleasure, and through what we do through sex, which is procreating and creating other human beings, that's glorifying God.
You know, what's interesting is there's this misconception that Christians can be rather prudish when it comes to sex. When in fact, I mean, you are spot on. Like, God, how amazing is he when he could have created sex or even the process of procreation.
Yeah.
He could have made it so like you touch my nose and I pop out a baby.
Yeah.
Right. But what did he do?
That would not be fun.
No, it wouldn't be fun. But what did he do? Like he made the process of us making children or even just connecting with one another without necessarily procreating. One that's so pleasurable.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, babe, you know, the clitoris does not have any other function besides pleasure. It has like over 8,000 nerve endings there, and it has absolutely no other purpose. Like that's it. That's it. And he didn't have to put
find
that.
it.
Yeah, and so find it exactly. But he did not have to put that on our bodies.
Yeah.
But he did.
Yeah.
Right? So how amazing is that?
I know.
I am thankful
Yes.
to him that he has made this a possible thing for us as a way for the two of us to connect and really enjoy each other and then take pleasure in each other's bodies.
No, I totally, absolutely agree with that. So the whole intention is to bring us closer together. And by participating in that act, we're basically fulfilling what his desire is for us. But when we think about faithfulness, and we think about intimacy, and we think about all those different things that will bring us together, we can't be selfish. And I think that part of it is the part that people sometimes falter with is the selfish part. Because usually when people think about sex, especially in the secular environment, it's about getting yours. Like I'm doing it to pleasure myself and I'm in it to get whatever I need to get out of it. But what we should be focused on is how do we fulfill the physical and pleasure needs of our spouse, right? Those are the things that we need to think about. And when what you just talked about before, it should look more like that. It should be, okay, in the beginning it was, I'm trying to fulfill my own needs. But at a certain point, when we get to a point where we are just in a deeper relationship and a deeper intimacy with each other, and we really just want to pleasure each other, right? And I want you to be happy. There's a point where I get more pleasure in you being happy and you being satisfied and you being pleasured more than myself.
Yeah.
Like I don't really, I mean, of course, I want to feel good about all this stuff, but I feel more fulfilled when you reach the pleasure that you want to reach. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
and I
do.
think that's where people need to be, because when things get stale, typically it's because you're only in it for yourself and you're not really thinking about the other person. But if both people are thinking about each other in that same way when we're being intimate, I think things will change.
Yeah. So you're basically saying you're following the same model for a healthy, thriving marriage outside the bedroom, within the bedroom.
That's right.
Right. So it's a selfless approach to the relationship where you're thinking about the needs of your spouse ahead of your own needs.
That's right.
And when you're both doing that, like you can't help but derive tremendous pleasure in that whole process.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Things change. You know what I mean? I remember when that changed, I was like, wow, am I just getting older or what's going on here? Why do I feel this way? But I'm like, man, I just really enjoy when my wife is just happy. You know what I mean? And I think that was just a realization that came to me at some point in time.
Okay. So what you're saying is there's number one, communication is key.
Yeah.
And then number two, remembering that intimacy is not just about sex, but taking it one step further, making sure it's also about conversation.
Right.
It's about the non-sexual touching and all that. But then you're suggesting that becoming selfless
Yes.
in your approach to intimacy with one another when you're focusing more on my needs and I'm focusing more on yours.
That's right.
Because one of the ways to keep marriage sex from getting stale is really looking at it from the perspective of what's going to please my spouse.
That's right.
Because I think that also lends to what you were saying earlier, honey, where we never really grow old or we
never grow tired.
we
never
never-
grow tired of each other, whether in friendship or intimacy or sex or whatever it is. We just don't do it because we're growing deeper and deeper in love with each other every day.
Yeah, and when you make it your mission to please your spouse, that's like a challenge in itself. Like,
Yeah.
you know what? Challenge accepted.
I heard something before, and it was something about just the stages of relationship. And one is like a euphoric stage, and then there's another stage where it's like somewhat attached, and then there's like a crisis stage, and then there's deep attachment, right? And so I think, well, we are in a place where we're in that deep attachment spot,
Yeah.
and that usually happens somewhere 7 years down the road or whatever it is. But we've gone through so much. You know what I mean? We've gone through crisis. We've gone through like the beginning parts of our marriage where we're just kind of getting to know each other, and now we're kind of in this calm piece
Yeah.
portion of it where we just feel super comfortable with each other, and we're just like happy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're just happy with whatever happens. Like, okay, we've pretty much experienced a lot of things in our lives, and whatever
Yeah.
comes, we're like, we can handle it, I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad. So I think that's the part where we are. And because of that, it just allows you to be free.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It allows you to have no inhibitions. We just kind of do the things that we need to do in our relationship to just keep things going.
And I think that's actually a fantastic segue to number three, like our third tip for keeping that flames of romance going. So
Yeah.
keep the marital sex from going stale. And that is to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like have fun with the process. And I think you and I have gotten to the point where we just enjoy like the entire process, right? We kid around where it's not serious. It's us just enjoying our time together, laughing when we feel something's funny and just really, really enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and don't be afraid to take risks, I think. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about jumping out of a plane.
I was
but
gonna say,
those
let's-
things
let's
that are
be
more
careful.
exciting, and don't be afraid to have sex in places that might be a little bit different. You know what I mean? Outside the house somewhere. Let's think about, somewhere else. The beach.
I know the beach. We were just talking about that
Yeah.
recently. No, we actually have scheduled time away or staying at
Hotel,
hotels,
yeah.
hotels in our city,
Yeah.
just so we can have great
Just time
sex.
together. Yeah.
Well, time together, but also uninhibited. We're not worried about the children and all that. And I'm hoping none of them listen to this podcast because, well, at least not until they're all married and are not like, ew.
Yeah. Well,
That's why you guys stayed at the
that's kind of
hotels.
how it goes sometimes.
You said you were recording a podcast.
They appeared on this earth somehow. So they had to know that we had to do it at least a few times.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But yeah, so doing things that are fun, right? Like enjoying the whole process.
Yeah.
I think that that's huge in keeping your sex life with one another from growing stale. Enjoying it, create adventures, go on vacations where you know that you're going to be intimate a number of different times. It's not just about sightseeing,
Yeah.
but it's also sightseeing in the bedroom.
Mhm. That's so fun.
Keeping it fun.
Yeah.
So let's see. The title of today's episode was "Help. Will our sex life grow stale the longer that we're married. And I think we have covered
I'm
that.
hoping that you were encouraged by today's episode, because it should not be stale. And there's so many ways that you can electrify and jumpstart your sex life. Spouse. Yes.
Your spouse. And we've had the research to show it.
Yeah.
We have our tips that we've shared of how to make sure to keep the romance alive, the flames burning in the relationship.
Yep.
And hopefully this has encouraged you guys to really look forward to an even greater quality and improvement, and especially in our 50s and 60s, because according to research, we should be having a whole lot more sex than we are now.
We got our better days are to come, even though today's are good too.
Yeah, exactly. Better days are to come. And so, that's, I think, something that we could look forward to. So if you enjoyed today's episode, we ask that you would consider leaving a review for us. We hope that everything that you learned, everything that we shared with you guys today will help you get on your way to that purpose-driven marriage. Bye.